Number one, I'll start this way. Since you know Confucius was already lived 2,000 years before Christ, long time ago, correct? Right. I was in New York. Before that, I was in a grade school. It was in a Catholic grade school. One of our teachers, he's from Europe. He told the class, he said, "Children, I'm very sorry to tell you that your great sage, Confucius, is in hell." Well, one student asked him, "Sir, what happened? Why he was in hell?" He answered, "Because he was not a Christian." Wow. That time, my dear friend, I was so young. I was in grade school. I know nothing. But later on, I figured out that, come on, Confucius was born 551 years before Christ. So how could Confucius be a Christian? It was impossible. But that time, I said, "Oh, sorry." So the whole class stood up. We said a prayer for Confucius. Poor Confucius, he was burning in hell. All right. Now, my dear friend, follow the Chinese people. Confucius, without any doubt, he was a great scholar and great thinker and great moralist and great teacher and great sage. It is very difficult to say because when I was studying myself, I was go through the number one. I remember one of my professors said, "Hey, you got to remember, Confucius was an agnostic." Agnostic is a Greek word, which means means none. Gnostic to know, not knowing anything. He simply can deny things. Why? He tried to use one passage from Confucius' writing. Namely, in Chinese we say, 未知生，言之死. What's that one? If you do not know life, how do you know death? Now, that is true. However, that does not mean that Confucius was simply agnostic. He doesn't know anything. But he simply said, our first mission is to know life. Who we are, who are in our house, what are my duties, rather than what's the idea, the concept, the definition of life and death. So that's where the point of departure. Next one. I would like to see that one, maybe before I come to tell that something like the essence of Confucianism, I would like to see that one. Is Confucianism a religion? My dear friends, this is very difficult to answer this question straight. Number one, before we say Confucius is a religion or not, we have to know what is a religion. I myself, in my other studies, I studied religion myself. I wrote several books even about religion. For instance, when I was in New York, I was in Brooklyn. I see the Nathan Knorr, the Jehovah's Witness, and the Boston, Mary Eddy, the Christian Scientist, and also I was also in Salt Lake City, see the Joseph Smith and the Mormons, everything. Fine. Those are very clearly, you see the founder, and you see the community with dogma, with something to be believed, something like the rules, and also the organization and so forth. Now, how about Confucianism? The so-called Confucianism, is that a religion or not? Well, here again, we have to come to the Chinese words again. In Chinese, the word is jiao, with a religion. In Chinese, meaning 宗教, jiao. By the way, if you see the organization, will be Jiao, jiao, 宗教. Oh, I think like I'm in a Chinese class in Pullman in Washington State. Then how to teach? Yeah, I did there also Chinese, Japanese. Now the 宗教, so Z-O-N-G, 教, J-I-A-O, 宗教. What's that meaning? Religion. Now religion here simply meaning. Be careful. In Chinese, it has two meanings. One is simply a teaching. Does not necessarily meaning something concrete, something you could see, like community, like a group. We see here, just a few minutes ago, I just mentioned, like in the case of the Jehovah's Witness, they have the North, he founded very clearly when and where and how or what. But Confucius never said, I'm going to build my church. Like my dear friends, we all know that very well from the St. John's Gospel, Christ said, thou art Peter, upon this rock I will build my church. Very clear. Yeah, for those of you who are interested to see that one, because in English we don't see that one very, very clear. Because in English it says, thou art Peter, upon this rock I will build my church. But if you go to the Latin text, it's much more clear. Because in Latin we say, tu es Petrus, thou art Peter. But in English we say Peter, but in Latin we say Petrus. Now how to say rock? In English, rock. Rock in Latin is Petra, P-E-T-R-A, Petra. So, tu es Petrus, supra Petram edificabo ecclesiam meam. Thou art Peter, upon this rock I'll build my church. Clear. Now, did Confucius happen in that kind of a situation? He never. He never. By the way, my dear friend, if we look at the life of Confucius, since he was born in the year 551, and then until he died when he was 73 years old, now what happened? That time the place was kind of not in disorder. So he had to travel around. And then finally, when he was almost 60 years old, he just settled down. He tried to compile the classics. Go back again to the point I started again. Is Confucianism a religion or not? The answer is clearly yes and no. Why? I say yes and no. For some people, you'll be surprised. If you go to the library, go to the library. This is the religion of the world, big deal. Religion of the world, religion of China. Confucianism, Taoism, Buddhism, animism, and so forth. Come on, my dear friend, that's not quite true. Confucianism, strictly speaking, is not a religion as such in a strict sense. Taoism, again, is a philosophical sense, metaphysical even, also is not a religion. And Buddhism, correct, is a religion, but Buddhism was founded in India, now in Sri Lanka, and then brought to China. Now the Buddhism in China is no longer the real Buddhism, which is founded in India. Because in India, the Buddhism has two kinds. One is they call it Hinayana Buddhism. What's Hina? Hinayana in the Sanskrit. Hina meaning small. Small. Yang means vehicle. They call it lesser vehicle or small vehicle. While in the Buddhism in China is Mahayana Buddhism. What's Maha? Maha meaning big. Or in English we say the greater vehicle. Okay? And also I remember when I was teaching in New York, one of my colleagues, it was an Indian professor, it was an Indian lady, Dr. Desai. She said, oh, you dirty Chinese. You really ruined Buddhism. Because Buddhism is so beautiful, so nice. But when it comes to China, you Chinese completely, changed the true face of Buddhism. I told her, I said, sorry, Dr. Desai. When Buddhism came to China, China was not a barbarian place, was not an uncivilized country. Was a place we have already our civilization. So when Buddhism came, we took the Buddhism, only the part which is good, we assume. Otherwise, we leave it alone. For instance, I give you one. I try to say something for you because some of you are very much interested in. Because the Hinayana Buddhism, the one from India, is only for the personal, you might say, salvation, personal deliverance. While in China, we have the Mahayana Buddhism, everything goes to the so-called group and a family. Why? Because that goes back to the Chinese mentality. All right? I said on also, I remember in connection with this, last week, we had discussion even in Pullman, in Washington State University, and some of the students are very interested in asking kind of characteristics between the Western world and the Eastern world, for instance, between in China, let's say, and in the United States. I said, it's very clear, my dear friend, as you know very well, you know better than I. In the United States, we have everything, you might say, centered in individual. My right. My place. But however, in the Confucian, in the traditional Chinese way, everything is a group. It's a community. So it's no longer I, it's but we. My dear friend, both are beautiful, both are nice. So here again, let's go back to like in the Western world, everything we say I, my right. But on the other side, in Confucian ways, everything is we and our duties. See? So right and duties are the opposite? No. They are only is the same thing from different aspect. Now come back to my question. Is Confucianism a religion? So I say yes and no. Yes, Confucianism is a very, very, instead of religion, I use a very religious. Because you tell the people how to behave. Like here, let's say we stay in our Christian teaching, we know how to behave, go to perfection, to salvation. But there, they don't do that. They only say how to behave ourselves. Now the second one here, I want to know here, is Confucianism a philosophy? Correct. Now, I would like to say the two. If we understand philosophy in a strict sense, namely like the metaphysics, okay, ontology, everything. In that case, Confucianism is not a philosophy. Confucianism is simply kind of we call it ethics. Ethics and morality, and those things. So therefore, in this sense, we got to distinguish which side, either theoretical or empirical. Now the last one, I would like to see that one is the one day we were talking about so-called giving the some problem have some problem. We say you Chinese people like talking about Confucianism. Now, if I'm a Christian, can I be a Confucianist? Well, you will be surprised. Some people say yes. In order to answer this question, I like to use kind of illustration. When I was in Japan, the statistics given by the government, the Japanese population was 125 million people. Very good. Now, what is the religious population? The religious population in Japan was 175 million people. What was that? Well, for us, for Americans, I think it's very difficult to understand. If I'm a Jehovah's Witness, I'm not a Catholic. If I'm a Catholic, I'm not a Mormon. If I'm a Mormon, I'm not a Christian Scientist, something like that, very clearly. But there, you see, you might say, today, I'm a Shintoist. Tomorrow, I'm a Buddhist. On Sunday morning, I'm a Christian. No, why not? So therefore, we do have some problem, like here for us, because in the West, we see everything so clearly. No one can serve two masters. If you're not with me, you're against me. So either or, neither nor. So, but here, I said, that's what, here comes the mentality. When we try to understand Confucian, exactly the Confucian so teaches us something very practical, our daily life, how to behave. I'm a member of a certain family. I'm a member of that society. I'm a member of that region. I'm a member of that country. As a member of the country, I have a certain my thing to be done, to perform. So in that case, one we should know who we are, and from there we could tell us what kind of performance, what kind of attitude you want to say. Look at that one, and also try to know where my position is. I'm here, and above me, I am my parents. I am my superior. I am my general, and I'm here. Therefore, I do my best. As soon as I do my best, and there, I already fulfilled my duty. Now, and in the problem, my dear friends, I was thinking since we might say before since I prepared, I like to give you some of the so-called the Confucian characteristics, because the Confucian characteristics is very important just for if you can under the, for a few more minutes, I'll tell you. Number one, because in Confucianism, Confucius identify that politics with ethics. And Confucius was also trying to restore a social order. By the way, I repeat once more, you will not find from Confucius' idea very many similar to our Christian teaching. No. No. Because at that time he tried to be a moralist, tried to behave, to do is our daily life, how we should behave. Of course, be careful. We don't say Confucius simply say very, very practical, very, very concrete, and very, very elementary. No, but he also has certain concepts, yes. But those traditional concepts involved with the so-called the idea of it to be a member of a community, a member of a family, a member of a group. That's true. And next one. Also, Confucius advocated humanism. How to behave. To know our daily life. And as you know that one, Confucius said one thing. If I know the truth, if I've learned the principle of life in the morning, I'm ready to die in the evening. So in this sense, my dear friend, I do find out that the Confucius way in his whole life, he's looking for something. What's something? He's looking for, you might say, the truth. Although, be careful, it's not the truth that we as a Christian were thinking that. No. Like here we call it dogma. No. But he was thinking the meaning, the purpose of life. If I know that one, fine. I'm ready to die is in the evening. Sure. So the whole life, my curriculum vitae of my life is just going after truth, after true belief. Next one. Confucius also, he stressed very much personal cultivation as well as a basic of a world order. Now, if you look for what are the so-called characteristics of Confucian philosophy, Confucian's thinking about that one, there are several. But the one thing that's very important is the word ren. Ren. What's ren? Well, in English, with the romanization would be R-E-N. In English, we say ren. Or maybe the better pronunciation, romanization, I would say is the French way. The French using J, J-E-N. Ren, the second tone. I'm sorry I said that on the second tone, because in Chinese, in standard Chinese, there are 4 tones. So each word has 4 tones. That's why I'm teaching in Pullman, and I try to give my students we stress every day the tone very, very important. Why? Because you don't give the right tone, my dear friend, it has different meaning. For instance, I give you some example. Like how to say tree in Chinese, tree. Shu. S-H-U. Shu. Now how to say book? In Chinese, say shu. S-H-U also. That's the first tone. Shu. While the trees is shu. Also, if you say, I have books, I don't have trees. No. In Chinese, say, 我有书,我没有树. See? That's why the tones also give you, when you use a different tone, also give you a different meaning. Yes. And in connection with that one, last week I gave my student in Pullman a very beautiful story which are using 36 Chinese characters which have exactly the same tone but different meanings. I told him, he said, can you read it? After the class, everybody says, yes, I can read them very well. But all different meaning. All different meaning. Okay? Yes, it's very, very beautiful. It's very, very interesting. Oh, and then some say, is that possible if I only just use the one tone? Using like everything, sh. Well, I say, it's possible, but nobody understands. See that? So that's what I'm saying. Here, be careful. There's something like we call the 人. Let's go back to the word 人. That's one of the central theme and concept in Confucianism, 人. What's 人? My dear friend, that is very difficult to interpret, understand. Why? Because 人 by itself, some said it has the meaning of benevolence. Some said 人 has the idea of love. Some has the idea of gentleness. Some says understanding. 人. Now here we say, if we keep that one, keep that spirit in our heart. 人. So our whole life is going after, toward that so-called like a utopia, the ideal destination. To be something like 人. See, what is possible to find, but we always try. As we know that one in the Christian context. I remember when I was studying, I remember what's the definition of a saint? A holy man. Can I say, definition of a saint, of a holy man, a perfect man, is someone who always tries, never give up. I walk here one step, but I still go another one. If I know I'm not perfect, but I always try. In that case, that looks like a very good definition. Who tries? So Confucians here give us the idea of benevolence. I always try. That's why I see in the audience we have so many little friends here, children. They're exactly the same. So when your mom, your father tell you something, so don't you remember that one? Always try. I try to be better next time. I try to behave next time. So that's very important, because that is, you might say, the concept of being perfect. So I always try. Even I made a mistake, I'll try it again. Now in Confucianism, here this idea to try, so to reach that kind of a stage, being perfect. Thank you. And then the next one, Confucianism also, his idea of man is a 君子. That's a good one. 君子. What's the 君子 here? J-U-N, 君子, Z-I, 君子. What about 君子? The 君子, usually, it is translated into as a gentleman. However, as a gentleman, maybe it's not quite correct, but the 君子will be much better if we see someone who simply has a very proper, he knows the rule, he knows the ambient, he knows his kind of position, his relations, his standing, and always his function and so forth. Now that one here is also, you might say, something ideal, toward, something going to, not in. So here, just like we say, because those two words in Latin, one is going towards, is to. In Latin you say at, going toward, forward. But the other word, in, I'm already here, no more motion. So therefore in Confucianism, we do have this problem. He tried to go, I see, here's my goal. I always try to go. I never give up. All right. And then, finally here, we see for the Confucianism, we said on this idea of Confucianism has definitely, not only from China, it went to Japan, went to Korea, went to Vietnam. Now, my dear friend, if you study the so-called history of Buddhism, well, the Buddhism is very clearly, it has two spheres. I just told you a few minutes ago, the Hinayana Buddhism and the Mahayana Buddhism. Now, in the so-called the Indian sphere, that the Buddhism centered today not only in India, now you have Ceylon, now we call Sri Lanka. Now on this side, you have Burma, Thailand, Cambodia, and Laos. While on the other side, the so-called Chinese Buddhism, that side, so the Chinese influence. You have not only China, from China, it went to Korea, and Japan and Vietnam. So therefore, this kind of sphere Buddhism and this kind of sphere Buddhism are rather different. One is the so-called Hinayana Buddhism, Buddhism of the lesser vehicle, while on the other side, you have the Buddhism of greater vehicle. Now, in comparison with the Confucian as such, Confucian, without any doubt, is a very lasting kind of philosophical, rather ethical system in China, and it still keep going on because it's rooted in the individual, in relation with the family, in relation with the so-called society, and then finally the whole, you call it the universe. And we do have one thing in common, like in nowadays, every year, probably the 24th of September, and like the Republic of China, they call the Teacher's Day. Now the Teacher's Day is a national holiday. Now that day, we do commemorate Confucius. Confucius is such, as I said, he already, about almost 25 centuries ago, it was 550 before Christ. So therefore, however, his teaching still remains. Now maybe some friend want to ask me, what are the main teaching of Confucius? I said, although there are many interpretations, many books to make like a commentary of the Confucius teaching, but there's one book, if you like to read, that's where you will find that one in the Confucius teaching, namely the book called 论语, L-U-N-Y-U, 论语. Now what's that one? 论语. Yeah, you can find that one in the library, I guess. Our English translation for that book called the Analects. The Analects, okay? Now that book is not a very large book. That book is a book only with 20 chapters. Only with 20 chapters, about 450 some verses. Some of the verses very short. Okay? I just give you one a few minutes ago. I give you several already, like the one, if I have learned the truth, if I learned the one, Dao, if I learned the truth for the purpose of life, I'm ready to die in the evening. Well, that's one verse. That's in the chapter 3. So, and that book, you will see that book will be somewhat like the book of Proverbs. And there you do have, however, I'm not going into the details about the authenticity of that book. Why? Because Confucius never wrote that book. That book was written rather by Confucius' disciples. You see, even my dear friend, I'd like to make some comparison with you. Even our own Bible, those 4 Bibles. You see, those Bible we know. Those Bible, who wrote those Bible? Is the Bible complete? I give you one instance, very interesting. If you take the Bible, number 4, the Gospel of St. John, look at that one. There are 21 chapters. Okay? See what happened when you go through the 20th chapter. At the end of the 20th chapter, it says, everything I have told you about Christ doing, blah, 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 blah. That's the end. Listen, nothing else to say. Looks like, Amen. That's the end of the chapter 20th. Clear? Clear. Again, now read the chapter 21st. Later on, something happened. Now, who wrote that one? Now, who wrote the chapter 21st? That's very interesting. Yeah, I think I spent about five hours. We're discussing with Professor. It's very interesting. Looks like chapter 20 is the conclusion of the whole Gospel of St. John. But suddenly, you have chapter 21st. Huh? So therefore, in some historical thing, my dear friend, please, don't ask who or when, what. I'll tell you something very interesting also. I said, sometimes very difficult. Very difficult. Because in the Old Testament, exactly the same thing. For instance, like the first 3 chapters of the book of Genesis say, Adam and Eve lived in the son's daughter, lived 900 years. That's the only way of saying the word of speech, the form of speech. It's not that way they lived 900 years. So therefore, we have everything. When we go try to analyze, we try to understand those old classics, like the Confucian classic, the Book of Analects. Be careful. We should know. Don't be a kind to examine, to analyze who wrote it, why, and under what circumstance. I know, but if you look without any doubt, among those 20 chapters of the Confucian classics, the Book of Analects or the Book of 论语, 20 chapters, it seems to me the first 2 chapters, as well as from chapter 10 until chapter 20, were not written by Confucius. Even nothing to do with Confucius. But the Chinese never questioned that one. The Chinese only want to know what is the Confucian classic. The Confucian classic is the book of 论语. Now, among those 20 chapters, I told you already, it would be much better if you're going to only spend time to go through the chapter, from the third chapter until the chapter 9th. And there you do have is only kind of teaching. But I said again, many people simply didn't want to ask the Confucius whether he in his day, how about because everything, that book was written much later. Not only that one, you'll be surprised in the interpretation. Before there are 3. There are 3, we call the kind of editions. 2 were lost. Now the present we have is the 3rd one. It also has 4 different kinds of interpretations. Now I try to give you something about the idea of Confucius. So as a conclusion, we see that Confucius himself, without any doubt, he says shows a great kind of influence among the Chinese people. Not only among the Chinese, but you will be surprised in the history of philosophy of the world, precisely in the history of philosophy of the Orient, particularly of the history of philosophy in China. He was without outstanding teacher and outstanding philosopher. I use one the philosophy in this sense, that he tried to give some philosophical ideas. He was definitely not a metaphysician, no. But he was a great moralist. He was a great kind of a teacher of ethics. And also, he tried, he would kind of social, a great sociologist. I think this is about it, and I have prepared, although I have some other thing, I think this is connected to analyze the Confucian concept. I do believe I would not like to go through with those things. I just like simply try to say, without any doubt, if it's possible, you can go through the book of Analects again, if you want to study first precisely the chapter from chapter 3 till chapter 9 in that block. Okay, that's it. This morning. I tried to finish here, and I hope, in case you have somebody has a certain question, I'll be glad to answer your question. Thank you very much. Okay. Yes, please. How's the English translation? Yes. How to spell? Yes. The book called the Analects, T-H-E, and then Analects, A-N-A-L-E-C-T-S. Okay? Thank you. Very good. Yeah, it's a short book, only with about, I told the 20 chapters. The 20 chapters, some of the chapters are not connected, some of the verses are not connected, only a little bit. Yeah, like one item. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. Well, maybe before I go, I'd like to tell something here. Because the mentality is very, very interesting. I just try to give you as a joke. You see, for some of you, since in Washington State in Pullman, I teach Chinese, Japanese. In my Japanese class, I usually showed my student one movie. What's the movie? The movie is by CBS called The Japanese. That's a good movie. If you like to see that one, I don't know here where you can find it, but in Pullman definitely can find in our library the Japanese. That's a very interesting. By our former ambassador to Japan, our Dr. Edwin Reischauer. There's one thing very interesting. He's talking about the daily life of a Japanese family. Daily life of a Japanese family. Talking about the husband and the wife. My dear friends, please, ladies, I would say ladies should not watch that movie. You're going to feel hurt. Why? You see there that kind of macho, the dominance of the man. Because in Japan, that the kind of husband. I remember at the end, Dr. Richard said, he asked the Japanese, give me a definition of a wife. He said, definition for a wife is the air we breathe. We can live without it, but we never think about it. See, that's what, well, I'm sorry to say that. Usually I told my students, I always warn them before they watch the movie. That's why I say, it's kind of mentality. Also, I remember I was in Japan also in the 1964, that's the World Olympics in Tokyo. In Tokyo, they have a booklet. They say, hey, Japanese fellow, be careful. For the next 2 weeks, you have the World Olympics, okay? So be careful. Lady first. I saw 2 Japanese were there. They said, what? Oh, lady first. The guy said, well, she's only 2 weeks, that's okay. All right. Thank you very much. Just to try to say yes.